Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy, doing the things you love with those you love to do them. Please do me a favour, guys. Smash the like button for me if you're tired of a terrible transfer window. But if you enjoy the content anyway, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the march to 36k, I think. Hit the notification bell. And, of course, drop your comments thick and fast. Let me know your thoughts on today's. I hope it's going to be a relatively short update because there's just a little bit of conflicting news going on with regards to a couple of stories. An interesting one that we haven't been linked with before in Bilal El Khannouss, the Leicester City Belgium player, Flemish player, I believe. And we've also got a little bit of an update on Bradley Locko as well, left back for Brest. That is quite a tiny player that Tottenham apparently put in an opening consideration, an opening expression of interest last year. And given what's happened to Destiny Udogie, then it looks likely that surely this would be prioritised. Before we get into any of that, guys, we're going to quickly talk a little bit about what's going on in and around the articles, the aggregators and the journalists out there. Give Me Sport this morning have come out saying that Tottenham Hotspur are preparing a £45 million bid to sign Bayern Munich defender Joao Palhinha. Journalist Sebastian Vidal has claimed. Says the Europa League winners are reportedly readying an approach for the Portuguese international and have already held talks with Bayern over a potential deal this summer. Spurs are believed to have identified Palhinha as the next midfield target following the Gibbs-White blow and are ready to step up their interest with an initial bid. Well, listen, the Gibbs-White blow surely has nothing to do with Palhinha. If it was Palhinha or Gibbs-White, that doesn't make any sense. They're two entirely different sorts of players. You can make the argument, of course, that they can both play in the 8, but not really. Palhinha is an out-and-out 6. I love Palhinha. I think he does fill the goal. You must have heard me say 1,000 times on this channel, if you're not new around here, that the need for specificity in the midfield is more important than versatility anywhere else, because you just can't have jacks of all trades in a system and in a Premier League that's so competitive with a variety of different styles of opposition. You need to have people that, when necessary, can come in and do a job. And for me, if you have someone like Joao Palhinha in the 6, he doesn't need to be played every game. There's certain teams, certain games, certain styles of matches whereby you can get away with having a double pivot, 2 box-to-box 8 in there with a 10 in front, and then utilise the wing-backs and the full-backs or whatever else in different ways. But for certain games, you absolutely need it. Now, the challenge for me is that the rumours that have been out there for the last, I don't know, couple of weeks are that Tottenham were interested, but that originally he was available for £25 million, which was very realistic. I think it was fine. But there's also obviously question marks around, how much has he fallen in the last couple of years? He's just turned 30, I believe. And so I can't for the life of me imagine that Tottenham Hotspur would pay anything like £45 million. There was also rumours out that Tottenham would be more interested in doing like a try before you buy, a year with an option, maybe a year with an obligation pending certain outcomes, where you pay a hefty loan fee in the majority, if not all, of the players' wages, to give Bayern Munich a little bit more freedom in their own wage structure to be able to go out and get some of the players that they might be looking at, like a Luis Diaz, rather, to get that number, which is also quite punchy at about £65 million, 70 million euros. So you can understand the kind of logic there, but I certainly don't want to be paying £45 million for Joao Palhinha. That's far too much for someone of his age. And if that's the sort of price point, then I think we can kiss it goodbye. But that's the story from Give Me Sport. Separately, we've also been hearing over the last couple of days about the links towards Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo, the Manchester United player, a good gifted player who can play in the 6 or the 10. I don't think of him really as a box-to-box. He's not that sort of player, but he can do the sort of defensive midfield role. He's also quite competent, or has shown glimpses of his potential, at least, up in a more advanced role. I personally haven't seen enough from him to really think that he's someone that I think moves the needle. I'm not particularly on board it. I've said it 1,000 times. If we get him and Thomas Frank wants it, then of course you get behind the transfer. But in terms of preference for me, if you put a list of names out there, he's not my list. Anything like the price point that Manchester United are trying to seek for the guy, which apparently is up towards £50 million. No way, no how am I on board that one at that price point. Separately to that, there's stories out today that Sporting's Morten Hjulmand, well, he's of interest to Manchester United as a replacement for Kobbie Mainoo, as a sort of next version and next iteration of a Casemiro, as Casemiro runs down his contract. He's not going to be leaving. He's going to be spending his last year there. And then once that's done, he'll move on a free transfer, probably to Turkey. But if Manchester City and Manchester United are both looking at Morten Hjulmand, and that there's actually genuine it's being received in the appropriate manner by Varandas at Sporting, but that Manchester United were readying a bid of 45 million euros, which is about, what, 40 million? Oh, sorry, was it 40 million euros? About 37, 36 million pounds, something around there. Crazy low number. But apparently it's been rejected, or it's being basically pushed back, because Varandas is hopefully looking for something nearer 50 million euros, which is about 45 million pound, give or take. Now, I'm not being funny, but Morten Hjulmand, for me, is a better version and a far more well-rounded midfielder, but that can do the sixth job of a Joao Palhinha. He's got more time on his side. He's got a better passing array. You can certainly drive the ball forward. And he also has a lovely ping on him from distance. Think back to the Euros. I think it was England against Denmark in the Euros where I think he rattled the crossbar, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's got everything that you'd need. Manchester City were looking at him as the next iteration of Rodri. They're thinking about bringing him in now, knowing that Rodri next summer might be of interest to Real Madrid. So that's the sort of market I'd love to see us fishing in. Whether we can attract him or not is another question. But what would really upset me is that if we were to go and pay either £45 million for a Joao Palhinha when you could get a Morten Hjulmand for the same money, or, God forbid, you pay £50 million for a Kobbie Mainoo just because he's homegrown and English and you pay the English tax, the Premier League tax. But Manchester United then take that money and go and get Morten Hjulmand and have change left over? What are we doing here? It's absolute, nonsensical bit of business. If you can attract Hjulmand and you've got that money to spend, then of the three of those, a Mainoo, a Palhinha, a Douglas Luiz, or anyone like that, but against the Morten Hjulmand at that price point, you get it done. Now, obviously, we know that Varandas is a nightmare to work with and probably don't really want to get stuck into something that's a drawn-out affair for the next couple of weeks, having gone through what we've just gone through with Gibbs White. But if you can make it easy, if Tottenham are starting to get to that point where they want to start making some moves, then obviously he would be, for me, a top choice. And at that particular price point, that's not scary to me. That's about the right price. I think that's actually fairly achievable price point. So I'd be surprised if Hjulmand was that's what Varandas was looking for. But I'd love to see it happen. Of course, the consequences of having very few spaces left in our foreign quota for the Champions League is a problem. He wouldn't be able to fit into the B team. He'd have to take up one of those spaces. And so in order to make that work, you'd have to see the back of an Yves Bissouma or a Rodrigo Bentancur or somebody else like a Sonny or a Richalison in the foreign quota contingent to make space. And that is obviously the problem that we're going through right now. It's the problem that's happening at a lot of teams. There seems to be very little movement for players that are desirable but not necessarily at the top level, and where there's not like a sort of a pecking order or a bidding war going on for certain players, especially if the players are coming to the end of their contract, as in the case of Sonny, as in the case of Bissouma. They know that they might be able to get a really lovely payback for their final destination of their career in 12 months' time. So it might be very problematic, and I think Tottenham really have to focus on shifting one or two of these players. We have the last couple of games of potentially Sonny's time at Tottenham in the North London derby on Thursday. That will be his final North London derby. The gaming career, I think, is a couple of days after that or 3 days after that or something. So we might have to then sort of wait another week and a half until we've done all of the necessary contingencies, all of the commitments, all of the covenants in whatever contracts we sign with that Korean tour. And then after that, hopefully, we'll get some clarification and clarity. Although, look, Thomas Frank has said a couple of things in the last couple of days that I hope is just placating for the purposes of the news and dealing with the press in the environment in which he's doing, where he's not undermining anything. But when he says things like, I can absolutely use and see the kind of vision of how we can use Sonny in a variety of different ways this summer, I really hope that is just lip service towards the environment rather than actual sort of predetermined game plans. Because I think that most Tottenham fans can see right now that he's not only is he far from his best, if he stays and it continues to decline, he may be remembered in a different way than he should be, which is the legend that he is. There comes a time in every player's career that you have to play your last game and kick your last ball for a certain club and in its entirety. And so I hope that we can all come to some sort of arrangement where that happens. At the same time, Richarlison, at the same time, Bissouma. I'd love it if there was a bit more noise around some outgoings. He was asked, expressions oozing, believe it or not, asked a question of Thomas Frank in the press conference there saying, what's your plans with regards to transfer window? And he said he wants to keep it all very close to his chest. something that we've obviously seen from Johan Lang as well, which makes it very difficult to bring you up to date, exciting transfer news, because we're just left to the kind of whims of the Give Me Sports and the Court Offsides and the Sky Sports, who perennially, maybe a lot of the time, just will make things up. We have heard, though, that there is some interest. I just listened to Ben Jacobs who's from Give Me Sport, who was on We Are Tottenham TV. Shout out to those guys. Get over and subscribe. I'm sure you already have. And he was saying that there's genuine interest from Tottenham in Rafael Leão, but that's a very sort of difficult one to see happening on a financial perspective. And on top of that, the kind of glimmer of hope that whilst Tottenham are very much an admirer of the player, that would obviously require Sonny leaving, and then Tottenham maybe looking to go big in the left wing area, which I would love to see. I think it's such a crucial position, and a player that we need in that role can't be a Brennan Johnson type player that comes in. That's also the argument why I think that someone like a Simmons and an Eze, whilst I absolutely adore them, I adore them in the 10 role rather than the left wing role. I don't want players that always cut in. I need guys that take players on and that are equally comfortable going in or outside. And like we have hopefully with a Mohamed Kudus, doing something on the left-hand side. It creates so many options. It allows you to have a switcher in the middle that can pick the ball, put it out to the touchlines, and it makes it very difficult to defend against. If Leão was the guy, that's going to be a club record fee for Tottenham Hotspur and probably a new club's highest earner. He's a very good player on his day, but I'll be entirely honest, guys. I don't think he's anywhere near as sensational as some people would have you believe. I think whenever I've seen him, I think he flatters to deceive a little bit. If he does come in, he's an immediate improvement on what we have, and he'd be a shirt seller and a kind of an exciting player, and certainly someone that we can all get behind and get excited about. But just if you're asking me as a Tottenham fan, looking at a player that isn't a Tottenham player, do I think he is worth the kind of the sort of gravitas that's thrown in his direction? I don't think he is. I think he's not quite at the price point. And if it's £80 million or something like that to get him, that's a massive sort of chunk of change. We shall see what happens there. But the story is from Ben Jacobs that Tottenham are interested in him. However, it's going to be very difficult. But the one glimmer of hope is that because AC Milan don't have European football this year, they may have financial sort of restrictions and they may have to liquidate one of their assets. And so that gives a little bit of hope, but nothing to get too excited about. Just quickly, the other story, of course, that's percolating around everywhere this morning, again, in the aggregators, is about Rodrigo, the Brazilian superstar from Real Madrid. All of the aggregators are saying that Tottenham are very interested. All of the aggregators are saying that Tottenham have moved in that direction, had phone calls trying to ascertain if there's any genuine interest. The other people, Ben Jacobs himself, Romero, everybody else is saying those stories are just not true, and that there's basically no interest from Real Madrid, from Rodrigo to come to Tottenham at this stage. He might be open-minded to going to the Premier League, probably to Liverpool, if Liverpool do in fact close the deal on Luis Diaz. And whether or not Isak comes in, maybe that's going to be a kind of complication in their front line. But in terms of Rodrigo to Tottenham, for all intents and purposes, all of the audio and the kind of the ITKs, if you like, of journalism on Twitter are saying there's just no truth to Tottenham for Rodrigo to Tottenham. So bit of a disappointment, but as expected, I think. Next story for you guys, obviously, is about Bilal El Khannouss. So this is the 21-year-old, just turned 21-year-old, a player that he currently plays for Leicester City. He went down. He had a very, very good debut season for Leicester when last season. He went down. He obviously comes from Belgium, from Strombeek Beaver, I think. That's a lovely name of a place, isn't it? Strombeek Beaver. Really talented player. Plays in the attacking midfielder, plays in that 10, but can come a little bit deeper. From what I've seen of him, his stats, and I'll show you his stats on the screen just so you know that I've sort of done the due diligence. His stats don't really tell you a story that's going to get you excited. They really don't. Let me make sure it's on the screen. Sorry, guys. They don't really, give you too much to want to write home about in terms of in terms of red bars and green bars. The things to look for. Compared to other attacking midfielders and wingers, he does get stuck in defensively and puts in some tackles. He's fairly good in the air. I think he's about 6'2", is he? 6'1"? Oh, sorry, no, he's not. He's 5'10", 1 meter 80. My bad. But yeah, his stats in terms of output in the last 365 days, not too great. He does like to proceed the ball progressively, which is always interesting. And basically, his passing stats are where you look for. Now, from what I've seen of him, this does sort of make sense. Seeing him in his international performances on the Y Scout, seeing him in various different divisions and various different kind of structures of football, the one thing I could say is he likes to come a lot deeper to win the ball. He's very comfortable driving. He takes the ball in the half turn and then drives it into, tries to take it around the man and then drives into the space beyond. He also loves to flick balls around. He's the switcher. We talk about this. If you do have a guy, if you happen to have a Khanouss off the right wing and you happen to have a Rafael Leão that was hugging the left wing, for example, with a Solanke up the top, just as an example, then this guy, as much as he's sort of an attacking midfielder in a 10 role, think about the way that Maddison comes to pick the ball up. I think you get the same sort of vibe from Bilal El Khannouss. And he likes to pass the ball. He's very clever with his passing. No, there's no problem here. It's not something that really excites me too much. He's a young player. He does get back and do defensive work relative to other attacking midfielders, relative to other wingers, because he likes to come deep and get stuck in to win the ball back. And so that's why you see those sorts of outperformances on the green bars. And certainly in possession, he is someone that is comfortable with the ball at his feet. He's classy, gets the ball, runs, turns, and takes players on. As you can see, over 50% of the time, which is 98th percentile. He's very, very good at it. I'm not that, like, if you're looking for a sort of a 10/8 that comes deep and wants to control, then again, let's go and get Arden Jashawi. Let's go and get someone like that, a younger player as well that can do, that's got green bars galore, that can really control the tempo. This guy is exciting, but he's also a little bit overplays it. He sometimes just tries to do these lofty, floaty balls to get on the highlight reels. Looks classy, looks clever. I'm not sure it's always about efficiency with him, though. I think sometimes it's more around just sort of, trying to make everything look beautiful and be sort of taking difficult options that look nice rather than simple options that get the ball and progress it quicker. He's not a bad player at all. He's young, loads of room to improve, and he's certainly someone that I wouldn't hate, but it just isn't going to excite me, and I doubt it will excite the Tottenham fans if it was to happen. Another story for you guys is Bradley Locko. So Tottenham Hotspur are looking at a left-back. Obviously, we know that Destiny Udogie went down with a bad knee injury. He's missed the trip, so we're currently out there with only really one recognised official left back in Ben Davies, who's going to play, and obviously Jed Spence as well can fill in over that side. But we should be looking for a left back, a left-sided centre back, or a left back. For me, this guy is, I don't mind him. I think he's another 23-year-old. He's a young guy. He's pretty intelligent, quite a balanced player, can get forward. And he sort of takes the ball down the outside, good with his crossing, likes to look up, find some good passes. Certainly someone that you'll probably hear a lot more about. The guy's from, he plays for the Congo, I believe. And, doesn't he? Plays for the French teams. Oh, my apologies. He's French Congolese, but he's played 3 times for France already. And it was a couple of years ago he moved from Stade Reims to Stade Brestois, obviously Brest. And look, he's a clever player. Again, Tottenham are just moving into the realms of just looking into France now for some bargains. I've said before, allez les Spurs, but let's go and find that solution from Leão. Let's get it at the top end of the pitch. For me, if we're going to go and get a left back, and if Destiny Udogie's injury is significant and severe, and when you hear that he went down with a knee injury and we're currently assessing it at the point where he doesn't even travel, to me that suggests that it's not just a knock, it's not just a graze, it's probably something that might keep him out for the rest of the pre-season. And so with that being in mind, you'd hope that Tottenham would be prioritising. As I said before, we should have gone and got a David Hansko, someone that can do a little bit of both. We could have gone and got someone like a Hincapie that can do a little bit of both, left-sided centre-back or left-back. You could, of course, also put Micky van der Ven out on the left back side if absolutely necessary, and then play Danzo on the left, or Vuskovic, or whoever else that can fill in on the left-hand side. That might be the reason why we've kept so many centre-backs. But for me, I do think that Tottenham need another left back, and Anthony Robinson would be, always will be, my favourite pick right now. Other players that are out there that Tottenham possibly could look at. I mean, Estupiñán, for what it's worth, has just left Brighton and gone to AC Milan, so he possibly missed out on one there. Tyrick Mitchell at Crystal Palace. People think he's out of contract. He isn't. He signed a 2-year extension, but it hasn't been sort of gratified yet. There really isn't too many left-backs out there. Theo Hernandez was an obvious choice as well before he ended up going to Al Hilal. I do think that Tottenham have potentially screwed up a little bit by letting this one, sort of sleeping on this one, and then typical Tottenham getting the injury in the one place you don't need it, in the one place where we don't have backup. The other player, of course, that Tottenham have been linked with in the past is Andrea Cambiasso of Juventus, and Paratici might have to be getting involved in a few deals out in Italy to get us out of some trouble as the window closes. If Rafael Leão is the target on left winger in a sunny exit, then apparently, according to Ben Jacobs, Fabio Paratici does have connections, obviously, with AC Milan and, of course, with the Leão camp. And obviously, Cambiasso as well as a player from his Juventus days. We're still looking at players like Leone, Lukumi, Scalvini, lots and lots of defensive potential options that we're looking at that are on the younger side. And if we were to get them, some of them are versatile enough to be able to play on the left-hand side. Others are more just sort of centre halves. But then in so doing, you could potentially find a way to move Micky van der Ven out to the left back if absolutely necessary. But that's about it for the left back updates, guys. And I think I've done the story regarding Rodrigo. I have Mikey Moore. He's finally going to get his loan move to Rangers, which looks good for him. And that's a really nice place for him to go and test himself at the best level. We shall wish him well if that one is absolutely nailed on. Yeah, I think that's kind of it, really, guys. He hasn't really. Thomas Frank, when asked by Expressions what sort of players he was looking for, he really said he wants to keep all that stuff private. And with Johan Lang as well, not giving us anything away, it's very difficult to kind of speculate. But for me, I still think that Tottenham Hotspur need to be figuring out a method to exit some of these players as soon as possible. Because if we're not doing that, then we are really cop-blocking ourselves. Guys, I'll see you tonight for a live stream a little bit later on. But I hope you enjoy this one. Please like, subscribe. And remember, if this is your vibe, but it's on audio platforms is your preference, then you can watch this video on Spotify. You can hear it on Amazon and on Apple. Please do get over there and smash the 5-star if you don't mind. And follow us over there. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.